Good sunny afternoon. This is Kate Harrell, your friendly dietitian here to talk a little bit about how to best fuel for soccer. So the first question is, what should I eat before I go to practice or before I go to a game? So first thing first, you want to make sure it's something familiar that you've had before. So we don't want to throw anything new in the mix before we go out to play hard. Second thing, because soccer is such a high-paced and quick game, we're going to use a lot of carbohydrates in order to do that. And so we want to make sure that that snack or that meal before practice or before a game has a good source of carbohydrates. So what are some options when it comes to that? It could certainly be common things like pasta, rice, bread to make a sandwich. So maybe a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a banana or a piece of fruit. Maybe it's having the pasta, having some spaghetti. If it's rice, maybe rice and chicken. Certainly being mindful on how much we're having is important too. And that how much part is going to depend on how much time you have before that practice or before the game. I would say in the range of 3 to 4 hours if you're going to have more of a meal. So like that spaghetti dish or maybe the chicken and rice, kind of a bigger meal. If you're about an hour to 2 hours out, that could be a smaller snack type option. So maybe it's the piece of fruit and a yogurt. An apple with some peanut butter. So something a little lighter, but still has that carbohydrate to get you through. So make sure it's familiar. Make sure to include a good carbohydrate option. Some protein can help that meal or snack last you a little bit longer. So I think in the range of maybe 2/3 of my plate from carbohydrates, 1/3 from protein. Don't forget about your fluids. So make sure that you're having some good water in that meal or snack before you go out to train. So question is, how far out should we eat before a practice or before a game? A couple things play into this, and a big part of this is you and what you can tolerate. So some people can eat a lot close. Most people have to back out a ways to allow their body time to digest. We don't want you to feel sick to your stomach or feel like you have a lump in your stomach when you're going out and trying to work hard. That can be a challenge. So in the range of 1 to 2 hours before, you want to keep it pretty light. So something pretty simple. Maybe it's a piece of fruit paired with a string cheese or some peanut butter and apple slices. Banana and peanut butter is pretty easy and portable to go with you. Certainly could have some liquids too to go with that. The further out you are, the more meal-like it could be. So in the range of 3 to 4 hours, you might be able to get by with a little bit bigger meal. So that may be where your pasta dishes come into play, maybe some rice and a protein. So a little bit bigger option would be fine because you're going to have a longer time to digest. Key thing is you want to test out what works best for you. So seeing what that sweet spot is to feel like you have enough energy, but also to be able to play at your best without feeling sick to your stomach. So after we play, there is a sweet spot to which we can bring in good nutrition, and it's going to help us to bounce back a lot faster. So the sooner you have a meal or snack after your practice or after a game, the faster those nutrients can go to work to help you bounce back and to help your muscles repair. We want to include a combination. So in this time frame, carbohydrates are important to help fill up our tank. So we depleted that fuel tank when we were training or when we were playing, and now we need to make sure we fill it back up so that we can do it again. Protein's really important because that is what helps our body replenish. It's going to help us repair the muscle that's been broken down during activity. So we need to give it the structure to do that. But the other neat thing with proteins is they actually give our body a signal to start repairing. So what are proteins? This could be meat. So if you're having more of a main meal, It could be something like yogurt or cheese, nuts or seeds or nut butter, eggs. There's lots of options that include protein. But again, we want that combination of some carbohydrate and some protein coming in. Low-fat chocolate milk is a big favorite for a lot of people. It's easy to drink it down, and it includes that combination of easy-to-digest carbohydrates and some protein. Certainly other options, you can make a smoothie at home, use some yogurt for your protein, maybe throw some fruit in for some of that carbohydrate. Again, you could have a meal, so a meal with your family when you get home, so combining some carbohydrate options with some proteins. The sooner, the better, the faster that recovery. So some of the key tips for athletes in general really come back to the idea or the analogy of the car and the type of fuel you're putting in. The better fuel you put into that car, the better that car is going to perform. And the same thing goes for us and athletes. The better quality the nutrition and the foods that we choose, the better our body can bounce back and the better energy we're going to have to perform. So what does that mean? It means we want to include our fruits and vegetables. So they give us a lot of nutrients that are going to help our body bounce back. We want to include some good proteins. So especially proteins across the day. So when it comes to sport and the muscle, we want to better distribute that protein so our body can continually keep that repair process going. We want healthy carbohydrates. So things that are going to give us nutrients, vitamins and minerals, as well as that energy coming from the carbohydrate. So options, think of veggies, even for example, potatoes, sweet potatoes, the grains, a pasta, maybe some brown rice, some other alternatives. Quinoa is a fancy one that gives us some carbohydrate as well as some protein. So we're balancing those out. The more whole food, I think, the better. So really giving yourself that good quality nutrition coming in. We don't want to forget about fluids. So again, consistency here. So like that protein and distributing it across the day, we want to bring in fluid across the day. We don't have a backup reservoir of water, so we have to make sure we're bringing that in. The color of your urine can be a quick and easy on that. So if it's really darkly colored or you're not going to the bathroom very often, that might be a sign that you need to bring in more fluid. That idea of consistency is also pretty important. So making sure that you don't have really big gaps where you're not bringing in fuel. Otherwise, that's going to stand in the way of that continual recovery process that your body needs to be able to bounce back from activity. So the better the fuel, the better the performance. Timing, as we've talked about before, is pretty critical, especially in that recovery window, but also things like breakfast. So overnight, our body does a lot of repair, but it also depletes the nutrients that we have, and we want to make sure we put those in so it can start that process over again. Protein's a perfect example. We don't have a lot of backup of protein, so we want to bring in a good protein source in the morning, pair it with some other healthy options. So maybe it's having, again, a yogurt smoothie where you have the yogurt, the berries. You could throw other things in there too. Now you have a combination that's going to kickstart that recovery process again.